Take Me Away. What a great and really sort of important song in the Ween discography, if you ask me. I mean, this introduced a whole new era of the band. It just sounded so different and so much nicer and cleaner, and they were on a different level after this, really. But anyway, it's one of their most played songs live. They play it almost basically every time, you know? It's such a, and it fits that live environment so well. I mean, they even have the fake crowd noise on the album, right? So, and it's a real simple song. It's not complicated at all, but the parts that are there are interesting, and the solo is just great. It's really cool. So we'll just get right into it. So, starting off in this G minor, right? So, you see the way he fingers this live, you might think it's a G minor 7, but I don't hear that in there, even when he plays it live. I think he's just muting that G string. Right, so it's a triplet pattern, and you want to really attack the guitar. On this rhythm guitar tone, you don't necessarily want a bunch of gain. I wish I could have had a bit less gain on my tone when I did that demonstration, but so it's sort of like a bridge pickup and not that much gain, so it's just a bit brittle. But the point I'm making is that you really want your attack to do a lot of the work there, right? So you really want to attack it with a lot of intensity at the beginning of the song, and every time you do that part compared to when you do the verse part. So you're muting the low E, your G string, and the high E. You're just hitting 10, 12 on your A and D respectively, muting the G and all the other strings that I said before, and hitting 11 on the B. So, right, and everything else is muted. Some say you can kind of hear this higher octave G. I can almost hear it as well, but I could totally be convinced that it's my ear sort of messing with me. And I think it just makes more sense to play it like this. You can do that if you want, but I think it's probably, this is the correct way. It's definitely how he does it live. And so the verse is going to be that exact same shape, but moved around on the... It's the exact same shape, muting the same things, everything, but you're basing it on the 7th of the A string. So it's an E minor. It's not even an E minor 7, it's just an E minor, because it's just the root 5th, 3rd up there. So, and then F sharp minor, just 2 frets higher, 1 whole step. And you're going to smack the low E, lots of smacking the low E in this. Smack it once. And I don't think he's hitting that low E with the E minor. I think he hits it and then kind of mutes it and just hits that chord, right? So that's a downstroke smack on the low E, and then he mutes it and just plays the chord. That's a downstroke. And then he scratches. He does a lot more scratching than I remember him doing. Just a muted, right? Just a muted hit as an upstroke, because it doesn't quite sound right if you go. It doesn't quite sound right, so it's just right. So he's gonna hit the, again, I don't hear the low E in there at all. It wouldn't quite sound right, but he hits the low note, or maybe low 2 strings, the A and D strings, or just the A string, and then an upstroke. And then another mute as a downstroke. Or it could be an upstroke. Right, so it's probably an upstroke if I had to guess. It just feels a bit more natural. Then hit downstroke, then scratch. Hit downstroke, and then upstroke, not muted this time. And then he's just going to slide that shape up. So that's up, down, and then a scratch with an upstroke. All right, so that's the verse, and it's a cool part. And you want to play it with a certain amount of intensity, a certain sort of smackiness. Especially as you're hitting those higher notes, right, in that chord. Right, you want to smack it, but you don't want to play it with as much intensity as you do this part. You want to hit that fast triplet pattern with a lot of, you know, a lot more aggression in there. That's basically the most of the rhythm part of the song. On the album version, he doesn't really do this live. Live, he just kind of taps out after he does his solo. He does some lead guitar work, but it's more in the background, and he lets Dave and Claude kind of take over, and Dave's doing that awesome sort of wild walking bass line. He goes pretty hard. It's really cool. So it's just on the album, it could be acoustic, but I think it's just a clean electric. It's real quiet. He just strums out there's an E minor. He mostly emphasizes like the lowest 4 strings. Those higher strings are in there sometimes, but they're just not as loud. So E minor. It's a full A major with that high A in there. It's not as prominent, but it is there. It is there. You could also just do it when you're muting the high E if you really want to. And he hits what could be an F sharp minor 7. I don't hear that low note in there. I don't totally hear this note either, but it sounds like pretty good when you play it. So you could just play this. This note is definitely in there, but I also kind of hear a high E in there. And if you play it like this, where you get that both of those notes, it doesn't really sound like what's going on in the record either. So I think the best sort of compromise to emulate that would be, so from the C sharp on the 4th fret of the A string down, and then barring the 2nd fret on the top 4 strings. So I think that's the best sort of emulation of it. So because it's mostly still A, you get that A vibe, but you got that extra little bit of an inversion of F sharp minor. And then they bust back out into that, and we go into that. And then of course the song just ends with you know, however many times they do that. So that's just, you know, you just end it like that. So now you can get into the solo. It's a really awesome solo. It's got a cool noisiness to it. I'm gonna turn off my phaser, but I also have a lot more gain on this because you're gonna want a lot of the sustain. So he doesn't hit it quite as many times. You're gonna want to do lots of pinching, and your attack's got to be right when you do this solo. So he doesn't do as much vibrato as I remember him doing on this opening note. So you're basically going to have it bent up on your G string 14th fret, half step. Some vibrato, but not too much. And he's kind of, you mostly want to sustain this note. So he kind of bends it up. And bend it up there to that full step when the solo finally starts. Like that. And then he lets go, bends back down to the normal note on the 14, the G, A. And there's lots of legato in this. I'm not going to tell you exactly what notes are picked. I would say you want to rely heavily on legato for this, you know, because there's lots of... Right, so you could pick whatever you want, but... So back down. Pull off to 12 on the G. Then 14 to 11. Then 12 to 9. Right, so he's going to slide up to 11, then back down to 9. 7. And I think it's a hammer on, then pull off. 9 to 7. Slide down to 6, then hammer on, pull off. Then slide down to 4, hammer on, pull off. Slide down to 2, pull off, hammer on, and slide up to 4, and then back down with some vibrato on that, especially that 2. And he's going to slide all the way up. He's going to make his way up to this position here with these 2 notes. And when he slides up, you're going to mute the string, so don't have it ring open. I mean, you could do that. It sounds fine if you know. But you want there to be just a bit more silence when you hit into this note. So he's going to pinch the D note on the 15 of the B string. You got to sort of get used to pinching and... my sort of strategy is just to try to pinch as many notes as you can, just because it'll... I mean, things usually sound cooler if you pinch, you know, a bunch of notes anyway, and you're probably not going to hit all of them if you're like me. If you're a pro, then you can just, you know, do it how it actually is, but it's like... So he's going to pinch that note once and add some heavy vibrato onto it. There's lots of vibrato up to this point, and he's going to continue that. So... Then hit that 14. So he's not going to pinch this note. I think that first time he hits that note, the A note and the 14 of the G, is actually not pinched. But, you know, again, as I said, it's better to just try as much as you can. I think he does pinch it the second time. So it's that B string once. And does it twice, so B, G, B, G. And then he... Now, you don't actually have to hit the string too many times here. I say let the vibrato do a lot of the work for you. I'm bending downwards, of course, but I'm bending up in pitch sort of slowly, and you're kind of doing this wobbly vibrato upwards in pitch. So when you get to a full step up, you want to work your way up there and then come back down and do the next lick. So it's like... See, I'm not actually hitting it that many times. I'm just sort of hitting it. And that's going to be the next thing. So I think he actually bends that up there. He slides it up, rather. So 12, again, try to pinch on 12 of the G. And add lots of vibrato at this point. So slide up. Pinch up on the B string. So he's gonna... So in rhythm with the sort of triplet pattern... it sounds different because it's more gainy, but in rhythm with the triplet pattern, he's gonna hit a... He's gonna bend up to that... Actually, it's the minor third of the G minor chord that is currently happening underneath. A really cool thing that he did there. You're gonna mostly be hanging out on a half step up bend on that 14 of the G. With heavy vibrato, of course. And then he's going to eventually bend his way up. Full step. And what he's kind of doing on the album is... I think there's at least 2 guitars there. There's probably at least one lead guitar that's overdubbed. And I think one of them is basically doing, like, when he gets up, full step bend there. Bending up real quick, full step on that 15 of the B string. And it's just sustaining it as long as you can. Right? And then I think there's another one that's like... I think it just slides all the way up to 21st fret on the G. And some vibrato in there. Now that's cool and all, but I think, just for me, because it's a little awkward to do that up to tempo and live and try to nail it. I always get nervous. I think just a little bit more of a practical and reliable way to emulate it, especially if you're playing it live, would be so get your way up a full step bend, and then hit 12 on the B, because that's the same pitch, and slide up to that 17th fret of the B string. It's not really what he's doing on the album, and it's not quite right, but it sounds enough like it, I think. So that's pretty much it, and what a solo. It adds a lot to the song, the album version. Of course, he does all sorts of crazy stuff live, which is awesome. And it's a classic Ween song at this point. There's a reason they play it live so often. It gets the crowd hyped, it gets them happy. It's a lot of fun to play, and I hope you had fun learning it. Thank you very much, and take care.